Well, I slept at Walmart last night. I'm less than an hour away from Gettysburg, and that's where I'm heading this morning. Hope to see some history. But I'm drinking my coffee and I'm boiling the kettle again in the car for my oatmeal, and then I'll be on my way. It's I think it's about 7:30. I've been up since about 6, but just got up slowly. It was a little cool last night, but I was fine with all my covers. So I hope for a good day. The sun is shining. I don't see any clouds, and this farm was owned by a widow named Lydia, and she abandoned this house when the army moved in, and then General Meade took over for headquarters. There's the old well. This is part of the battlefield. In the afternoon of July 1st, the Union soldiers were trying to defend Oak Ridge from repeated Confederate assaults. But by 4 p.m., with no help in sight, they were forced to fall back to Cemetery Hill. They left the 298 men of the 16th Maine to stand there alone to hold the position as long as there was a soldier left. This meant death or capture. So they stubbornly held their ground until they were forced back to the railroad cut where they were surrounded. All but 57 men were captured, killed, or wounded during the battle. Their determined stand, though, bought time for others to retreat. General John B. Hood's Confederates attacked the Union position at Devil's Den, this rugged labyrinth of boulders right here. Alabama and Georgia troops advanced from the rocky gorge to the left as a sheet of flame burst from the rocks less than 100 yards away. Despite their losses, they came on in heroic manner against the 4th Maine, sheltered among the boulders. The deafening roar of exploding shells and relentless rifle fire echoed among the giant rocks, drowning out the shouts and groans of dying soldiers. Enemies scrambled from boulder to boulder in vicious fighting. Confederates ultimately forced a Union retreat. Confederate sharpshooters held the position for the remainder of the battle. got hit in the head with acorns. This tree's just flinging them off. It's pretty cool. On July 2nd, part of the Union General Daniel Sickles' 10,000-man 3rd Army Corps occupied the orchard that belonged to the Sherfy family. Originally assigned a position a quarter-mile to the left of this area, they believed the high ground here was a stronger position, so he advanced without orders from General Meade, commander of the Union Army. His mile-long line formed an angle. Vulnerable to attack from two directions, it also left a gap in the main Union position. At 5:30 p.m., after an intense artillery duel, Confederate troops attacked, assaulting the southern and then western face of the orchard. The Southerners drove the Union defenders back in retreat. After the fighting on July 2nd, Confederate General Robert E. Lee ordered Generals Ewell and Longstreet to launch coordinated morning assaults on both ends of the Union line. But around 4:30 a.m., the Federal artillery fired on Culp's Hill, forcing Ewell to accelerate his attack, but Longstreet's men did not even advance. So Lee revised his battle plan, deciding to attack what he believed was the weakest point of the Union position, the center. But ordering a charge across low open fields like those, where the enemy had the high ground, was an enormous risk. The fight at Spangler Spring occurred between 4 a.m. and 11 a.m. on July 3rd. The Union batteries opened fire at first light on the Confederates holding this position. And then at 7 a.m., the 2nd Massachusetts and the 27th Indiana received orders to attack on the wooded slopes. Colonel Charles Mudge, commander of the 2nd Massachusetts, could not believe the command. A frontal assault over open ground against an entrenched position? Well, it is murder, but it's the order, he said, and led his men forward. Both units surged across the open marshy ground toward the height above Spangler Spring, and then Confederate troops, protected by a stone wall, decimated the Union forces, forcing their retreat. The fighting here lasted until 11 a.m., when the Confederates finally withdrew. Lee hoped to destroy Union artillery prior to assaulting the center of the Union line, so he ordered 150 cannons to open fire on this position. The Federal soldiers flattened themselves against the trembling ground to escape the missiles of death, but it wreaked havoc along the ridge, killing horses and men and dismounting guns. A lot of the shots overshot the Union position, but it went on for over an hour. And when firing from the Union guns slowed down, they thought they had succeeded and ordered the infantry to advance. This assault was known as Pickett's Charge, led by three Southern generals, George Pickett, J. Johnson Pettigrew, and Isaac B. Trimble. There were 13,000 Confederate soldiers involved in this attack. They emerged from the woods. And on the left were Pickett's 5,500 Virginians, and to the right, the divisions of Pettigrew and Trimble. Their battle line stretched over a mile and advanced towards the Union position on Cemetery Ridge. The determined Confederates were hammered by Union guns, but against all odds, they continued forward. Despite heavy losses, clusters of Confederates pushed toward the angled stone wall. Confederate General Lewis Armstead jabbed his hat on the tip of his sword and held it up, guiding his men across the wall, shouting, "Come on, boys, let's give them the cold steel." So they breaching the Union line at the wall, men from both armies collided in a mass, struggling, pushing, fighting, killing. Federal reinforcements surged into the fight surrounding the Southerners. Armistead fell mortally wounded, as his men, outnumbered, were either killed or captured. The few that escaped made their way back towards Seminary Ridge. Sorry for the noise, it's a bus. I am on an auto tour. This morning I had a free tour and a free history of the Civil War battle. This is the first time I've driven through Pennsylvania, really. And we took all back roads everywhere. It's been great. We are at stop number 2, which is the Eternal Light Peace Memorial. At 1 p.m., Major General Robert E. Rhodes, Confederates attacked from this hill, threatening Union forces on McPherson and Oak Ridges. 75 years later, over 1,800 Civil War veterans helped dedicate this memorial. So of the veterans, Civil War veterans that came to dedicate this 75 years later, most were in their 90s, but there was one that was 112 years old. The flame burns continuously, right up at the top there. So, this is the view they had when they were going to go to battle. This is number 12, the Pennsylvania Memorial. It's pretty big. Approximately 28,603 Confederate and 23,049 Union soldiers were killed, wounded, captured, or missing in the fighting at Gettysburg. Once beautiful farms and woodlots became scenes of carnage and gore, and the smell of death filled the air. Lack of basic medical supplies and shelter hampered the ability to provide proper care. Dr. Jonathan Letterman, stated it was like fighting a battle without ammunition. This is Culp's Hill, and there's a tower here, but I don't really think I want to climb anymore today. I've done enough climbing up and down things. Gettysburg was a defining moment for soldiers who fought here. Preservation of the battlefield was initially intended to be a shrine to the Union cause, but over time it evolved into a memorial to those who fought on both sides. Veterans who fought here, Gettysburg meant many things: courage, sacrifice, treason, loyalty, freedom, emancipation. There have been blue and gray reunions in 1887, 1913, and 1938. The angle and the high water mark became the setting for the ceremonial handshakes between former enemies.